Previously on agentpalmer.com, listen to Tim Minchin's serious album debut, Apart Together, Sexy Little Numbers, and the curse of dated data analysis. And if you want more of the Robin Palmer Show, there's a few episodes of his podcast that we talked too long during as well. This is the Palmer Files, episode 126, with the return of Rebecca Seidel, who's back because since her last appearance, she launched a podcast and ran her first marathon. We discussed those two milestones, plus running, editing audio, reading more, finding balance, taking time to decompress, and much, much more. Are you ready? Let's do the show! Hello and welcome to the Palmer Files. I'm your host, Jason Stershik, also known as Agent Palmer, and on this 126th episode is the return of Rebecca Seidel. Now that she's launched Abridged, her podcast about bridges, and ran her first marathon, she's back to discuss those two monumental milestones, as well as finding balance, reading more, but we also dive into some audio geekery and some running nerdery as well, like what do you listen to when you go for a run, how either of us got into running in the first place, the things we do for our health and mental health as well, and all of that and a whole lot more, of course, is coming your way shortly. But before we get there, remember that if you want to discuss this episode as you listen or afterwards, you can find all related ways to contact my guest, Rebecca, and myself in the show notes. Rebecca's podcast, Abridged, can be found wherever you're listening to my voice right now or at Abridged.xyz. And a link to her personal site, Rebecca-hope-seidel.com, will also be there. Don't forget, you can see all of my writings and rantings on agentpalmer.com. And of course, email can be sent to thepalmerfiles@gmail.com. So without further ado, let's get into it. Rebecca, it has been a few years since you were last on the show, and from following you, two major milestones have happened. Mm-hmm. One, you finally released the Abridged podcast about bridges, but you also ran your first marathon.
Yes.
So, since these things both happened after we recorded, which was the more fulfilling? Because they were both not overnight successes. Like both of these things took a while.
Oh my goodness. That is a hard question to answer because they were both big life goals, but in different ways.
Sure.
But I guess kind of in a similar way in that Abridged was also a marathon.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Okay.
But I would say both of those things happened within the span of about 5 months of each other.
Yeah, that's the thing. I know they both happened. I didn't realize they were that close together. So there was overlap in your what we'll call training and preparation.
There we go. Yes, exactly. Thank you for bringing both of those up. I am very proud of both of those things, and I don't know how I can beat them in 2024. 2023 was a good year for me.
Well, I mean, you've taken time to, I hope, revel in the. I don't want to call them successes because, you did them, and I don't want you to be like that's the pinnacle. But you have celebrated these things.
Yes.
Hope. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So Abridged, my podcast about bridges, premiered at Tribeca last year, which was super exciting and kind of the best launch party I could have asked for.
Nice.
Just to be around a bunch of other people who love watching and listening to great things. It was really a joy. So got to celebrate that. And then the marathon was just a huge party for 5 hours of my life. So can't really beat either of those things.
Okay. And how was the train? Had you been a runner before?
Yes. It's funny because in high school, I went to a public high school, but it had kind of a unique level of boot camp gym class.
Okay.
And so I really I've never been a sporty or athletic person. I would not consider myself that. And so we had to run miles in gym class, and I absolutely was not a fan of that.
Okay.
And I couldn't tell you exactly when I grew to actually love running, but in the past, I would say 5 years. It's become a big mental health thing for me.
Like, does it just spring out of the ground? Like, this is just an idea you have one day? Like, I think I'm going to start running.
I feel like I'm not alone in that. Somewhere in my mid-20s, it hit me.
Okay.
Like, I feel like, I don't know, maybe there's an age or something where the idea gets planted in your brain. I mean, I don't know if you experienced this.
No, because I was a runner in high school, like in middle school. Like, I ran track and cross country.
Okay.
And in college, I just, there was no drive. Also, the distance is double. Uh-huh. And I was like, I mean, I like running, but I don't love running. And so in college, I would occasionally run myself, but not competitively. Like the competitiveness goes away.
Right.
And then it's kind of always been like a summer thing. You can't pay me to run in the cold.
I was the same way for a long time.
And I'm still that way, but like recently, because as we're recording this, we're getting warm days. I've been going out. I'm not like I think it's twofold. One, I never really stopped running. Like there might be a few years where it's like somehow I was just too busy. Right. But generally, I'll go out at least once a week during the summer. And if I'm really on it, and as I've been like doing more consulting work and not having a real job, I will go out anytime it's not raining and get in a couple miles. I don't need a lot, just a couple miles. And then for me, it was like mid-30s where it went, all right, this is a little less about my health and more about my mental health of my God, this is, between the actual couple miles or 2 or 3 miles and the cool down and the stretching, that's a full like hour. I'm not I listen to music, but I don't consider that connected. So that's a full hour, no screen, no nothing. And if I'm really lucky, I can just listen to the music and get out of my own head as well. Cause that's the
dream.
My fear happened last year, which was, and it was towards the end of the season. So it was like August or my running season. And I was half mile into a 2 mile run, and I thought of an intro for a future guest, and I won't stop. Like I still have that drilled into me. You're not going to
go stop and write it down.
No, never.
Yeah.
So 14-year-old me got drilled by drilled into by coach. You just keep going. Don't stop.
Yeah.
The hardest thing to do is to start up again. So for a mile and a half, I repeated that intro until I crossed the finish line and typed it out. I was like, I got this. But it was the worst because if it happens with a half mile to go, that's not bad. But
but that's like the opposite of tuning out.
Yeah. It's
your
just
life.
Okay. I've taken phone calls while running, so I guess I could have called somebody and been like, write this down.
Right.
But it didn't. I was just in it. I was like, all right, I'm not stopping. Here we go. But yeah.
Yep.
I think that, that mental health aspect probably not enough people know about.
Well, yeah, I think at this point, that's most of it for me.
Oh, okay.
I mean, training for the marathon was one thing where, yes, I did have to get a certain number of miles in to feel like I was ready and strong enough. But now I more and more go on a run just as an excuse to get out of my apartment, get out of my head.
Yeah.
So and then I always feel better afterwards. It sounds so cliche, but it's definitely true.
How easy is it, or how long does it take you? Right. Like you walk, you stretch, you get out the door, you probably put on music. I mean, I feel like that's everybody these days.
Well, the big question is music or podcasts?
Oh, it's definitely music.
Same.
I edit podcasts.
Yeah.
I edit this podcast. I edit other podcasts. No, and people are like, well, you could listen.
Separation.
You can listen to audiobooks too. I'm like, no. I don't want people talking. Just.
Yep. No, I'm the same way. I tried to be a podcast person while running, and then it was just too much of the same thing that I do with my life.
Well,
So
there's a part of me that will, if I'm having trouble getting out of my own head, I will set my pace to the beat, and I have a specific run playlist that has some what I would call chill run songs. So it's not like
down the pace a little bit.
Yeah, just slow it down a bit.
Yeah, I'm so curious about people's marathon. I'm so curious about people's running playlists because I feel like everybody has a different strategy.
I could share it with you. I mean,
I would love that.
It's approximately an hour long. I put it on shuffle. I'm only running about 2 to 3 miles, so a 5K max. So like, even between the cool down, I will never get through all of it, and occasionally, I'll be like, yeah, it's time to add another song to this. But it's long enough now where like I rarely hear the same songs on any given run. Like I'll run 4 days in a week and be like, I heard the same song twice. So it's now big enough, but
yeah, it stays fresh.
Yeah. So, but when you get out the door, how long does it take you to truly disconnect from like, hey, I still have a problem with that track and I gotta kind of do like, is it instantaneous or is it your bit?
I would say it takes me about a mile.
Okay.
To get out of work mode or just life mode into run mode.
Yes. Okay.
The first mile, I'm struggling. I might have weird pains in addition to still thinking about whatever I have to do next or whatever I was doing before. But then after that first mile, I kind of get into the rhythm of it.
Okay.
I would say.
Yeah, I'm a horrible runner, by the way. Like
Is there such thing?
I like it, but I'm a horrible runner in that I'm even when I was, I guess, quote unquote coachable, I always went out too fast. And I could never I ran with guys that are like, I want to run this pace, so I'm going to run this pace. And then I want to bring it back, so I'm going to run a slightly slow. And I'm like, I can't do that.
Yeah,
I can run.
That either.
I can run. And if it's uphill, if it's downhill, you're
moving forward.
Yeah, my first mile will always be faster. I can ease off all I want. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so I just, at this point, I'm in it for the punishment and the escape. Both of
good
those
reasons.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, but I've loved it all the whole time though. Like I just, actually, I do occasionally think like I'm getting spoiled now because like when I was running in high school, if a Walkman was your only true running option, because the Discman was going to skip and nobody runs that smooth.
Right.
And a Walkman was heavy. So you were basically going like, nah, I'm not going to,
you were just out there.
Yeah. And
with your thoughts.
I haven't done that, right? I haven't done that yet. There's a part of me that wants to know how I would do with like no music. Just go out there.
Just try it. Yep.
And see what happens. But I'm
afraid.
I don't know what I'm afraid of, but I am afraid of that. Like, I don't know.
I don't want to hear my footsteps. I don't want to hear my own breath. Like it's my thoughts. I don't want to hear any of that.
Yeah, that's it. That is the being alone with yourself can sometimes be a scary place.
Absolutely.
So you've hit these big milestones. What's like have you plateaued? Or are you like, I'm gonna chill here for a bit, or have you immediately gone to like, what's next?
I would say I'm very bad at not doing things. So I think I'm always a little bit in what's next mode.
Okay. Well, I think that's a creative bad habit, but we all kind of have it. So I'm not surprised by your answer, but I'm also like, I wish, because maybe it's because I'm in the space as well, but every time I see people around me have big victories, I hope they take an appropriate, I don't know what this is, but like an appropriate amount of time off.
Yeah.
And all of the good news is you're all like me. So like we all have the same psychosis where it's like, yes, I did that big, amazing thing. What's next? Like maybe it's like that thing took you a year and you took 3 days off before you were like, I think I got another idea.
Yeah.
It's, by the way, not an appropriate amount of time off.
No, I will say I am not running the marathon again this year.
Okay.
So I am running a half marathon in 2 weeks. So I feel like that's a perfect example of what you're talking about.
Yeah, it kind of is. I mean, you didn't go like, all right, now I want to run 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days. Like you didn't go crazy.
Yeah, not quite.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so I think I am always thinking about what's next, trying to take rest time as well, because certainly always do more of that.
I mean, you're surrounded by creative people as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do any of them take a healthy amount of time off? Yeah. Okay.
I don't think I know a single one.
I'd like to meet one just because like everybody wants to see a unicorn. That's basically why I want to meet somebody who's like, yes, I take the appropriate amount of time off.
I have boundaries in my life. Yeah.
I'm really trying.
If you find one, let me know.
I mean,
you have to have them on the podcast.
Even just boundaries, like concrete. Like I won't do this after 7. Yeah. After 7, I'm done, and it's just like, but I could maybe like
it's one more thing.
It's just a little thing, right? Nobody has to. Then you start lying to yourself. It's like nobody has to know.
Yeah,
it's fine. Nobody will find out. Nobody will know I did this at the time I said I wasn't going to do the things.
You'll always know, though.
You will always know. I make it like I started playing Minecraft a bunch of years ago in survival mode, but like there were a couple worlds we've played in just because a restart's always good in everything, not just gaming and life. But like there were a couple worlds where like towards the end once you do the cheat once, it's really hard to not do the cheat again.
You know it's there.
Yeah. And it's just like, all right, well, I screwed this up. I'll just wait until the next one. And I think that's kind of with all the like boundaries we set with like when you break one, you're like, I could just break it again.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to put it back up.
Yes.
It's just horrible. But it's a creative thing. I feel like this is the mania of all of us.
This is the way, for better or worse.
Yeah. I don't like it. We should fix it. I don't know how. We should fix it.
Have to do a hard reset.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So if you're not running as much, and obviously you're taking a little time but with Abridged now. So are you like not just working? Like, because obviously you did those two things on top of your normal work. Yes. So did you fill those holes with something else? I mean, you're still running, or are you just like, no, now I get to chill a little. I get to listen to music more, or like whatever.
I am certainly filling my time. Definitely a big portion of that is still running and is still work. On the work side, I do a decent amount of freelance work on top of my full-time job.
Oh.
So I work at my full-time job 4 days a week, and then I freelance also.
But not just on the 5th day, right?
No, definitely on evenings and weekends.
Yeah.
And so that fills up probably more of my time than it should.
So hold on. Yes. Hold on. Where did the Abridged time go? Like, I guess in this schedule, where did Abridged get created? Because I can't imagine like you stopped Abridged and started all this stuff.
No.
This stuff had been going on all along.
Yeah. So I was really fortunate actually in that. So the company I work for, Goat Rodeo, it's a podcast production company based in DC, and we're a 7-person team. And my bosses there were kind enough to give me the time in my day to work on Abridged.
Okay.
Which was huge. So that was how it got done at all, because left to my own devices, my own project that I'm hosting and producing will always be the back burner to other things.
Yeah.
And so to have it prioritized in that way,
I can't
was
imagine
the only way I could get it done. Yeah.
that while also training for a marathon, editing and producing Abridged while giving up sleep is a horrible idea.
Yes, but it was also creatively fulfilling. And I had never really, we talked about a bit about this on the last time I was on, but I had never really hosted something of my own before or produced something that felt like fully mine.
Okay.
And so that felt really sort of enriching to me and like woke me up, I guess.
Has it given you any perspective on the editing you do in your day job for other people? Because like my story, not that dissimilar in terms of like just being behind the scenes of other people's shows for a very long time before finally biting the bullet and being like, all right, maybe it is time to do my own thing. And it takes a while, but it changes your entire perspective when you're on this side of the mic for like a while.
Yeah, it definitely changed my perspective. One thing is working with other people's, like, I work on narrative shows where somebody's voicing it kind of between pieces of interview tape. And I just have so much more kind of respect for everybody's personal sort of voiceover process and all the different takes and everything like that. I kind of know what I want to hear in a voiceover if I'm working with somebody. But the second I got in the booth myself, I just realized how hard it was. And I don't think I had quite realized that before. So that was one thing. I think I also, with Abridged, I really wanted to focus on kind of immersive sound design. And that's something I think about more like, that's always been something I'm really passionate about, but I think I have forefronted even more now and think about it even more.
I think, because I've heard some of the other stuff you've done, I think that it being your show allowed you to be like, yeah, there's background and then there's immersion. Yeah. And you got to kind of take it to that next level. I'm sure that's bled in everywhere else now.
I hope so.
Okay.
I think I was able to get kind of experimental and weird with Abridged that I can't always with every project I work on, which is fine because not every project wants that.
Not every project needs to be experimental. It's like,
right. But what I really, I loved being able to kind of give sounds more space and things like that on my own show. And I think I've leaned more in that direction with other things too. Now, kind of letting things breathe more. Yeah.
Where do you get the ideas now? Like, are you constantly listening to other podcasts? Are you listening to music? Are you just trying to collaborate? Because like I've been talking about it a little bit, but only a little bit because I want this to be mine. Mm-hmm. And that is I grabbed a list of like 16 bands and I'm listening through all of their catalogs in chronological order just to kind of see how they all bounce off of each other. Yeah. And it's the Stones, the Beatles, Dylan, the band, the Allman Brothers, Frank Zappa. Mm-hmm. And Zappa's the one where I'm like, holy crap, I thought it was just musical comedy and it's not. Uh-huh. And it's so weird also going through the decades, because now I'm in the 70s. Or at least as we record this, I'm in the 70s. Yeah. And I started in the 60s, and like you can hear the tonal shift, but it's not. So I guess as a sound person, it's not a hard cut. It's a very gradual crossfade. And now it's like, I don't know when it happened, but now I'm listening to a 70s album.
That's interesting. Yeah. You don't even know. Yeah. You can't point to one place.
No.
Where it happened.
It's so unique, but it's also giving me this kind of history lesson to my own musical tastes of like, all right, well, this is what you like, and maybe this is why, and you can see the foundations, which is why I was doing this to begin with. Mm. But it also has given me some like, do I want to play more music now?
On your own show.
Either on my own show or just in my own time. Like it didn't start necessarily for any other reason than I started wanting to listen to an album. I'd sit down, I listen to an album. Like, I mean, I carve out time to do that.
Yeah.
And with the work that you and I do, we have headphones on all the time, but we can't always listen to what we want. That's not...
It's the bane of my existence.
That's not how it works. So like carving out time to be like, all right, I'm going to listen to this album. I don't have to stare at a screen. I can just do whatever. And it's kind of wonderful. And it's an art form that's fairly lost on everyone.
List like a full album.
Yeah.
I mean,
Unshuffle. Like, what do you have to tell me, Mr. Dylan? Like, tell me a story. Or like David Bowie is a good example. Like he's got some albums where it's like, all right, all right. Because again, and the other thing is, it's a different time in terms of like, these were when artists had a lot more control over their music. They might not have had a control over the label and like, you owe me 5 albums. Right. But the album delivered is completely up to the artist. There's no producer being like, all right, this is your single.
Yeah.
And
they have creative ownership.
Yeah. And so it's kind of really, I don't know, a very wonderful creative time. I'm kind of scared for the 80s to come, but it's a whole different.
You won't even know it's hit you until you're in it.
That's probably true, right? Like,
but yeah, that transition will be interesting. But yeah, I love listening to full albums, and I feel like society is trying to steer us away from it. Like I use Spotify and it's curated to death. And there's something kind of nice about how lazy it can be to listen to music on a streaming service like that, where it just serves you playlists and you can just listen to a playlist that feels like what you're in the mood to listen to. But more and more I feel like I just want to listen to an album through. Like that's what I want.
The thing that I was really hoping was that I do use Spotify for this because it makes it a little bit easier. And mainly I don't own all these albums.
Right.
But it has slowly, look, I've listened to like over 100 albums since I started this journey. It's slowly starting to change the algorithm for me. Like,
really?
But it's only 100 albums in that I've started to notice the change.
Is it serving you full albums?
No, it's not, but it's starting. I'm getting a little more of the B-sides, it seems like, because I am listening to whole albums, and the algorithm must sense that like, oh, well, that album has maybe like a single on it, and he listened to the whole thing, so we can give him some non-singles. Yeah. And so I have noticed that also. He's not on my list of artists, but they have massively increased the amount of Warren Zevon that I hear when I just go to like a random like daily playlist.
Yeah.
And it's not always Werewolves of London, like thank God, but it's also like, wait, why?
Yeah. They saw something in you.
I mean, I'm not upset about it, but I was also like, of all the artists that have a common theme,
right.
That's the one.
That's the one.
Okay.
It works in mysterious ways, the algorithm.
But I am also prepping for like, and I'm going to put him on the spot because I don't have to name names, but like a friend of mine, an older gentleman, he's retired. We had lunch a year or two ago. And I was like, well, until I get a full-time job, like I'm around if you've really got songs that you want to produce. Like, I have a tiny mixer. Between us, we have plenty of instruments and microphones and amps. And I would love to mix an album, like, or help you like build something. We don't have to put it on Spotify. We could just do it. And he's like, when I'll get to it. Everybody's always, when I'll get to it. But like every time I see him, I remind him of it. I'm like, good. It's the offer stands. The offer stands. And ironically, since then, I've been toying with a song. I haven't written a song musically in over 2 decades.
Wow.
And there's just a tune in my head. I have like 3 different parts that do go together, but I have no idea, like, let's say just chorus, verse, bridge. I don't know. But they're there. And I plan on sending it to somebody much more musically talented than me and being like, what should I do
What did I
with
do
this?
with this?
But I have this, and every once in a while I'll play it just so I don't lose it. But that's like a happy accident. I didn't ask for that. It just happened.
Sometimes that's the best stuff.
Although I don't know what to do with it. I mean, yeah, I could put it on the podcast, but it's like, what do I do? Why now?
I guess you don't have to do it. It's making the thing that counts.
It is. That
right?
Like the album. I don't mind if he doesn't want to share it with anyone. I just kind of want
to exist.
Make it happen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, because he's like, oh, I've been writing songs for like 20 years. I just don't share them with anybody. And I'm like, okay. Well, when you want to put them together, like, let's go. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I've become that guy. And I joke about it all the time, like off mic. I talk to a lot of creatives on this show. And after about half of all of them, when I'm writing my outros, I'm like, should I tell the listener to do the thing again? Because that's kind of been like the one underlying theme of this podcast is like, I talk to creatives and they're always like, I should have started earlier. I didn't want to ask that, but I might as well. Like, do you wish you would have done Abridged earlier?
No, actually.
You were in the right place?
Yeah, I think it was the right place and the right time. And I still, to be clear, want to make more episodes of it.
Okay.
I'm just, I guess I've been taking a break, but I have more episodes in the works.
Oh, nice.
But I think I was in the right place in terms of editing skills and writing skills.
Okay.
Where I felt confident in what I was making and putting out. And, you always look back on things you made, 5-10 years ago and think like you wish you might have done it differently.
You don't have to look that far back. I can look back to last year and be like, I wrote that.
Yeah.
Or like I put that out. No, it doesn't. Well, it also depends on how much you do too, I think.
Right. But I think I felt like I was in a really good place creatively when I put the episodes together that are out now. So
now, how was the response of fellow bridge enthusiasts? And were you at all surprised at what I can only imagine was a fair number of them?
I was very pleasantly surprised. I got a lot of really nice responses. People really responded to the idea of the show, which is kind of a strange one. I thought other people would think so, but apparently a lot of people love bridges. And so I got a lot of really good responses, some really long emails with suggestions for episode topics. I
was going to say, do you have I guess in perpetuity now you're covered for a while?
I have a long list. And I got some really good suggestions. And so nothing is off the table as of now.
That's good.
And so, it kind of ran the gamut from bridge nerds, architecture buffs, history people. So I got a lot of kind of varied interest, which was really nice. I listened to it because thank you.
I knew you were passionate about it, and I was happy that you finally did it.
Yeah.
But I was like, all right, this is a show I can get into. Awesome. And I wasn't a bridge nerd to begin with.
Yeah.
But I guess I can put that badge on. You. That's fine. Yeah.
Anybody can be a bridge nerd. There's no barrier to entry.
Okay. Yeah. No, there is.
You might have to cross a bridge to get there.
I was gonna say I might still be afraid of some of those like you can see through bridges. I don't know that I'll ever get completely I'm never gonna slow down my car when I can see the water underneath it.
That's fair. I understand that.
I won't speed it up, but I'm never going to be like, hey, let's slow down and enjoy the water.
Yeah. But I'm glad I convinced you to be a bridge person. And that's good encouragement for me to keep it going. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, and I have bridges all around me. So it's kind of like, take a look at them we let's be real. We go over them all the time, even if it's just like an on-ramp bridge. Mm-hmm. Like we have them. They exist. They're
everywhere. Yeah.
They're everywhere. And it's just like some of them are pretty and some of them are functional.
Right.
And you kind of go, why can't the just functional ones be pretty too?
Yeah.
But
I guess some of them might have incredible engineering that you don't see.
No, that's fair. But I also think like, and this is a personal taste, and I understand that everything like prior to 1970 that was built seems like it has artistic intentions of some capacity versus like some of the stuff that's built after it. It's like, that, I mean, it's a nice shape, but it's not pretty. Yeah. And that's buildings in general. That's not just bridges. It's just like, oh, what are we doing?
Yeah. I will say I do appreciate when more recently built bridges give thought to pedestrians, runners, and cyclists. I say this because I ran over a bridge going in from Queens into Brooklyn, the Kosciuszko Bridge, a few days ago for the first time. And it had the widest pedestrian bike lane that I'd ever seen on a bridge in New York City, which is amazing because usually I'm fearing for my life on those things. Well, so that was nice.
Yeah. I have a very nice borough to run around.
Yeah.
You run in New York City. Now, do you, for clarification, I am a front door runner. I go out my front door and I start to run.
Yes.
I do not love running enough to get in my car and drive somewhere to run.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going out your front door and running? Are you getting on the subway and going somewhere else? You got miles to cover. So
that's a good question. I am 85% of the time a front door runner.
Okay.
Occasionally I will hop on the subway to go to Central Park or somewhere else that has a good running path.
Okay. And are you
to go on around? But
I guess to bring it back to combine them all, like, are you always crossing a bridge on your distance? It feels like you have a very small plot of land if you don't cross a bridge.
Yes. I would say, once I hit a certain distance threshold, there's usually a bridge involved. I feel like I need to make an Abridged episode that involves running somehow, but it feels a little like just all of my things. But yeah, I'm usually crossing some kind of bridge if it's
I don't see any problem combining all of your things. I mean, I personally avoid the one bridge closest to me because it's wide enough that if I like, regardless of the direction of the wind, one way is going to be in your face. It'll never be completely on your side. And so like either crossing it or coming back is going to be like, well, I don't feel like I'm moving anywhere.
Yeah.
Which I also live in a valley, so I kind of get that anyway.
Yeah.
Do you avoid streets that you know are like, that one's a windy one? I don't go down that one.
Yeah, I avoid windy streets and I avoid really busy streets, whether it's like busy car streets or like people having brunch on the sidewalk, which I made the mistake of this past weekend, running on a really busy brunch street in Brooklyn.
I guess that would be because they're like, we're just going to put our tables on the sidewalk.
Yeah, and there's people waiting outside. There's people just hanging out, and I can't be mad about it. You know, it's like people are having a nice weekend, and I'm like busting my way through their fun time.
All right. So what out of the audio and running space are you doing? Anything? I mean, it sounds like you don't have much time not being in the audio or running space, but when you're not, are you reading? Are you watching movies? Or what was, something else?
I'm trying to do more of both of those things. Reading and watching movies for sure. Hiking, although I feel like I can lump that in with running.
That's like running adjacent, I guess. Because I will say, I've started walking on days when like I can't get in a run. Yeah. But it's like, but I got 20 minutes to go for like a walk.
Yeah. It's great.
Again, not really for my health so much as my mental health. It's like, all right, I don't have time to run today, but I can still get out for a little bit.
No, that's always better than not doing that.
Yeah. So I'm going to say hiking is
we can
running
count that
adjacent.
Yes. I'm trying to read more, which I think is just a constant I'm always trying to read more. That's not a new thing.
But when you say read more, like, are you reading a few books a month?
That would be the ideal. I'm not quite there at the moment. I'm trying to read every night before bed.
That's how I got back into it.
Yeah. And it's definitely helping.
Yeah. The only asterisk about reading before bed, especially for me, because I've been reading everything and anything. So I'm trying to kind of exercise my brain with, like, here's a nonfiction that you wouldn't normally read. Here's a fiction that you wouldn't normally read. Here's something you like. And then just like whatever is that sometimes these books are not meant for before bed. And so it's like, I'm still going to read it before bed.
Yeah.
But I also know that I have to close the book and then, like, give myself some time.
Yeah. Because it's too immersive, or like
it's either too immersive or, well, I've been reading some books from the 60s and 70s that are scarily relevant again. And so that makes sleeping not as easy.
Yeah. So your mind goes on a train there.
Yeah.
It's hard to,
And so but I also don't want to not read it. I feel like it's also important to experience that anyway. And without getting into politics and culture wars, no one's writing about that stuff in the way they were writing about it then. I think a lot of the best writers from the 60s and 50s and 70s tried to completely disassociate with the subject matter and just tell either a good story or tell it how it is.
Yeah.
And so I think their perspective is very important, but it's also scary at times. And it's like, it's 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
I gotta shut this book and go to sleep. Like, what am I gonna? Why?
Like, somehow this is worse than doom scrolling on Twitter.
Yeah, which, this book was published before I was born. How is this scarier than Twitter? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, that's terrifying.
But I still think reading a little bit before bed.
Yeah.
Best way to get back into it.
For sure.
And then movies. Yeah. I don't know. I'm so far out of the loop on movies.
Yes, me too. I have a lot of friends and people close to me who are big movie people, and I do my best to keep up, and I fail at it, but I try.
Okay. So I have a few of those friends, and I get it from both sides, which is, what do you mean you didn't see that thing from last week? And also, what do you mean you didn't see that movie from 1962? Like, and it's, I don't know how to combat both sides of that argument when I'm just here like, well, I enjoyed reading my book this afternoon.
Yeah. And that counts in its own way.
I hope so. That's what I've started to come back at him with, is like, well, did you read? How many books did you read this week?
Right.
It's tough. It's tough. So, are you getting out to see movies? Like, are they dragging you out? Or you're like, all right, I'll go?
I always have a fun time when I end up going. I have a Regal membership, which I don't, it's like whatever, $23 a month for unlimited movies at a Regal theater. And I make it not worth it most months, but then occasionally
you do.
It is worth it. Yeah. Okay. So I've been on a good streak lately. But it's down the block. It's walking distance for me too. So I really have no excuse.
I mean, I was going to say, it gets you, it's restful for your legs, so you're not hiking or running. It gets you out in front of away from a computer.
Yep.
Thank God the resolution's different, so it's not
not
quite
the same exact thing. Yeah.
And then it's a sound and visual experience, so you're not just like listening intently, which I appreciate what you do on such a level, because I have a small show and I will be like, wait a minute, is that breath? Can I make that edit? Because that breath doesn't line up.
Right.
And then it's like, no one else you might notice it. I mean, in a perfect world, no one will notice it. But I just the intent. I think that's why you need the running, right? Like it's such a
totally different headspace. But there's something very satisfying about making those nitty gritty edits and getting them right.
Oh, I will literally verbally exclaim if I'm like, I think I can make this cut, and then it works.
Mm-hmm.
Round of
best.
applause for myself. Greatest, time for more coffee. Let's take a break.
Let's go. I've been tutoring for this NYU grad journalism class. And it's a intro to podcasting, like journalistic podcasting class. And I come in to help the students with audio editing and technical stuff.
Nice.
And I bring this up because I was teaching them kind of some tips and tricks for making finer kind of edits, like the things we were just talking about, making smooth edits, making them sound unnoticeable, using breath and room tone and all of that. And I think I just sounded way too excited about breaths. I was explaining, you can cut this breath here, paste it here, and it's going to sound like you never made an edit. And I was like, I think I scared them a little bit.
Yeah, but it's the details are important, right?
Yeah.
We're not and best of all, you and I missed the cutting of tape, right?
Yes.
So if you tell them, just make it sound natural, like you have to work with breaths. And I talk to hosts that I work with all the time. I'm like, I can't make that edit.
Yeah.
It's just,
you have to draw the line sometimes.
You didn't give me any, I'm
not a magician. I
can't do that. I want it to sound natural and I just can't do it. And so I've also learned to do that for this show too. It's like, all right, you know what? It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Naturals. But naturals also very important. People will lose. I'm also a guy who's never listened to a podcast on anything other than 1x speed.
Really?
I can't do it. I know it saves time.
I'm so impressed because
I just can't. I listen to less because of that.
Yeah. But your brain is probably calmer.
I don't know about that.
My problem is if I listen to a pod, so I have different podcasts set to different speeds in my podcast app.
Based on the hosts, I'm guessing, or
based
the content?
On the type of show.
Okay.
So often news shows I'll have a little bit faster because I just kind of want to get through the information.
Okay.
Chat shows usually a little faster. Something that's more documentary or narrative.
Okay.
Or something with really intense sound design, or you can tell a lot of work was put into that side of it, which, to be fair, a lot of work is often put into news shows and chat shows too, of course.
Yeah.
But when I really feel like I want to pay attention to how the sound is working, that I'll keep at 1x. But it's weird when sometimes I'll listen to a news show and slow it back down to 1x, and then it sounds very slow to me. Like, I can't do it.
I guess, I don't know, because I don't do it like, so how is this then? Because you and I are just like, how is it when you get to the real world and you're like, you and I are from the Northeast.
Right.
No secrets. We talk a bit fast to begin with, but I'm not talking at 2x or even 1.5. No. So like, is it an adjustment? Like if you were just listening to a podcast and we started this, would you be like, why is he talking so slow? What's going on? Like, just get to it.
I hope
already.
not. This feels normal to me.
Okay. All right.
If anything, I'm always trying to slow myself down when I talk. But no, I don't. Hopefully we're not operating at 2x speed right now. Oh. This feels like a normal speed to me.
This, I think it depends. This is the geographical thing. Like this feels normal to me.
People really do speak at different speeds in different regions. I go to this gym class. It's this gym called Orange Theory. All this to say, I go to classes here in Queens usually, but one time I went to a class in Boise, Idaho.
Okay.
And I was like, please talk faster. Like she was going so slowly. She was like, and then you do this, taking the time to explain everything, being so kind and nice, and like speaking at a normal speed. And I couldn't handle it. It was too slow.
Not a Northeast speed.
No.
Yeah, Everyone wants to meet a unicorn. And for creatives, we all hope that we meet one because it means that we can become one. For creatives, as you've heard on this podcast since its inception, taking breaks and having balance just doesn't seem to be part of the creative oeuvre. After discussing launching her own podcast and running her first marathon, what's the quote from Rebecca? I'm very bad at not doing things. Perhaps we're just programmed differently. I always tell you to do the thing, but for those of you who resist, perhaps the balance is what keeps you resisting. I don't know the answer to that, but I can tell you that being bad at not doing things makes the disconnecting when Rebecca and I go running all the more precious to us because we are always thinking about what's next. Unless we do something about it, such as train for a marathon or run a 5K. And to go a step further, we both listen to music when we do so because we both edit audio for a living. And no, I still haven't gone for a run without music. I'm thinking that maybe one day I might be able to get back to that place, but there was so little going on when I would run 2 5Ks for a workout in high school with nothing but my own thoughts. One day, but not this day. On this day, I thank you for listening to the Palmer Files, episode 126. And now for the official business. The Palmer Files releases every 2 weeks on Tuesdays. If you're still listening, I encourage you to join the discussion. You can find all related ways to contact Rebecca and myself in the show notes. There you will find links to Rebecca's podcast, Abridged, where anyone can become a bridge nerd, with episodes available where you're listening to me right now, and as you've heard, more on the way. The music for this episode was provided by Henno Heitur. Email can be sent to thepalmerfiles@gmail.com. And remember, your home for all things Agent Palmer is agentpalmer.com. All right, Rebecca, do you have one final question for me?
Yes. So you were talking earlier about how you've been going on walks more recently. And in the spirit of slowing down and doing things at 1x speed, what's something you've noticed on one of your walks recently that you had never noticed before?
Nothing recently, but I will say last summer, I smelled honeysuckle. And I haven't done anything with this yet, but I wrote this entire, I don't know, let's say 500 to 1,000 word thing about how on my walk, I smelled a honeysuckle. And when I was like 9 or 10, because I moved back, I bought a house in the neighborhood I grew up in when I was 9 and 10. When I was 9 and 10, I could find a honeysuckle. I could like pick the thing off. I could rip the thing out and get the juice. First of all, I don't know if anybody taught me. I don't know how I learned or anything like that. And I don't know where that went. That was the realization. It's like, I couldn't identify one. I wouldn't know where to pick it. I don't know where that went. That was the one. Now I'm just looking around going like, it's nice not to look at a screen. Like it's so simple and just kind of like, cause I take the same walk. But it's just kind of like getting out. But that was the one, it was last year, that was the big realization. It was just like, holy moly, where does it go? No, I don't remember who taught me. Don't remember where I learned it. I just know I don't have it anymore.
Yeah. That feels like something that would stick with you.
I don't know. I mean, but it's gone. Like, cause the smell's still there. I can still identify the smell, but like immediately I was like, I don't know what I'm looking for. I don't just looking around like, what am I doing? I don't know. Although I will say, in the interest of like 1x and I guess fidelity, I run with earbuds, but I walk with cans.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
that's I used to run with cans, but then I got earbuds and I was like, oh, this is so much cooler.
See, I run with bone conduction headphones now because I got fancy during my marathon training. Have you ever seen those?
I've seen them, but I've never okay, so how you've also done earbuds and cans.
Yes. Before that, I was running with cans. I don't really like earbuds. I don't even own a pair of earbuds right now.
You were running with cans?
Yeah, no, it was terrible. Sweaty as hell.
Yeah, because the first thing you do when you finish is take them off and you feel immaculate. You're like, oh my God, it's so much cooler.
Absolutely. No, I don't know how I did that for so long. I still sometimes run. I have these like over-ear noise canceling headphones. Probably terrible for running, but I still wear them sometimes in the winter when it's cold because they double as earmuffs.
Yep, absolutely. That works.
But yeah, now I have these bone conduction headphones and they're so much better. Because they don't even go in your ear at all.
Okay. I mean, mine have what do they call awareness mode? So basically it's like they turn on the internal mic. But in case you're wondering, if you're gonna run with awareness mode on, all you hear is wind and you never hear the music.
Oh no, yeah.
So I just run with awareness mode off. I'm like, that's fine. Like I'll hear a car horn. It's fine.
You'll be okay.
Yeah. No, I very much, I try and look around, but I also try and, this isn't the right word, but it's the only one I got, zone out. So I'm not like, I'm not going to walk into traffic, but I also couldn't remember anything, and that's fine. So I just, until I get home. It's like, all right, what's next? Sadly. So, all right, I got that done.
Yeah.
I probably should try and pay more attention, but
I've been trying to, because I usually would walk with my over-ear headphones on as well, but I've been trying to leave them at home more.
And just walk? And
just walk. And I think it's been a net good for me personally.
Okay.
Just in terms of, I'm at my computer all day, like we were talking about. I have my headphones on constantly. I'm editing. I'm listening to breaths. I'm listening to podcasts, listening to music. And, I tried to challenge myself to not do any of those things when I'm sort of in the walking mode. And I feel like it's helped me in a ways I can't tell you exactly how, but
that's fair. I have noticed that when I try and do some like house busy work and stuff, I try and use my actual speakers. So it's like, look, I know that you and I are going to be like more purist about sound, but songs sound different over the air with speakers than they do in headphones. And so it's even though it's a song I might have heard a lot or on my walk yesterday, hits differently. Yeah. It's just out in the house. So there's that too.
Yeah.
But I don't know, the scary idea of running with no music.
I'm not there yet.
Going back to the way it used to be. Even a walk. I don't know. That might be some homework at some point this year, but the music also keeps me going. So also I don't know where my brain would go with no I think I might be a little afraid, if I'm honest. Of being like, well, now I'm just going to think about that now. And I don't have any music to get lost in.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. It is scary.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why we make podcasts. So other people can get out of their own heads. You're welcome.
Exactly. We're doing everybody a service.
Oh, completely.